Hello, everybody. Hello. How's everybody doing? Thank you for coming back another week and watching On the Town with Tanya. Today's guest is someone whose mission is deeply personal and profoundly powerful. She is a certified grief coach, grief educator, movement guide, and the author of a new book, My Love Letters to the Grieving. You are not alone. What a great title. From losing loved ones at a young age, battling morbid obesity, to receiving lupus diagnosis, she has turned pain into purpose. She not just brings knowledge, but soul level compassion. Today, she's here to talk about her new book, her journey, and to remind you that you are not alone. So, if you're grieving, if you're stuck in pain, or if you're just searching for peace after loss, any kind of loss, in any form, this episode is an invitation for healing. So let's start the show. Hey, so please help me welcome Ke'Shawn Hill-Adamson. Adamson. I guess the hill got me.
Hello.
Hi, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. I'm late with that.
Thank you. Yeah. I love it.
The hill got me. I'm always just saying Ke'Shawn, and so I didn't even say Mrs. Adamson, right? So that's wait, Hill, that's a new one. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I appreciate it so much. So your new book is out. I'm very excited. I see it everywhere. And I hope it's getting lots of sales because it should be number one, guys. You guys, this is something we all go through. So if you get a chance, the code is up there to scan and buy the book. Buy it for a loved one because the holidays is coming. And just in general, with so much stuff going on, we're all in grief in some form. So make sure you try to pick that up. So for yourself, can you just share a pinch of your story and how it led to healing and counseling and now in a book to help others? How did that go? How did we get to that?
So for me, a lot of times in life, we all have a moment that moment in time that everything changes.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it started at 7, when the day that everything changed, and it was the passing of my grandmother. My grandmother was my hero outside of my own mother, was my hero, was our best friend in the family. She was the matriarch of the family. She was everybody's everything. And she passed away very abruptly. One day, my siblings and I, we were jumping on her bed, and then I never saw her again because she got sick and she went ill. And that was pretty traumatic for our family. That was beyond words. We, as a family, we were beyond devastated, and we were stuck. No, at that time, no one knew. And even today, no one knows how to really process grief. So you just carry your broken heart, your sorrow, and you just try to keep it pushing. So as a kid, I did that. She's in heaven, she's okay. Right. But I didn't know how to process the pain that I was feeling with such a loss. She was a second mom. We called her mommy. So that just speaks to the volume of the magnitude of what she meant in my life. So, during that time, family rallied around my mom and I, the family and I. But then I noticed that as I started to age, one by one, every family member that was a pillar in my life started to die. And so not only did I lose my grandmother, I had a ton of secondary losses. And even though my mom did a phenomenal job with stabilizing everything, there are just some things as a parent you just can't control. And death is one of them. And it just really afflicted my family. And so we all didn't know what to do. Uncles, aunts, cousins, friends, you name it, one by one, and it really altered my life. I didn't know what to do. All I knew to do was go to school. And at that time, you have therapy in school, you have different things. But again, therapy wasn't a thing where it's like, especially in the African-American community, where everybody's flocking to it. So we did the best that we could. And as a teenager, I really struggled with grief, just silent grief. Did well in school, tried to push forward. In elementary school, grief really did impact my education in elementary school. So I ended up being misdiagnosed with a learning disability, but really it was grief. So grief really impacted my education, and I rose above that, and I was able to graduate high school. And on the day of my graduation, I got a call. My grandfather was the second closest to me as my grandmother. He died too on like a day or two before my graduation. He promised me he was going to be there. So I sat in graduation bewildered and in a fog. I worked so hard to work through the system, and was the top 10 of my class, was accepted into Iona University, overcame so many academic obstacles, and was working through the grief. But then my grandfather died, and it just never stopped. And I was stuck. So I never learned how to process it. Moving forward in college, towards the end of my college year, I started packing on weight. And I didn't know really why I was packing on weight. And it wasn't until I started to really try to tackle it after I had gotten up to 325 pounds. I was always a size 14. So the loss that I felt in my heart and my mind of gaining that type of weight, and I wasn't eating anything, doing anything crazy. So it was just a lifetime of me just trying to grapple grief, being a career woman, carrying so much pain in my heart, so much trauma, and not really knowing what to do with it. And it wasn't until I started blogging about my weight journey and overcoming obesity that I started to unearth grief. And then once I started to realize that was the root cause of a lot of the pain that I carried and the affliction in my body, I started going to therapy. And from therapy, I started to learn about my own wellness and how the things we don't process, they stay with us and they begin. And grief definitely impacts your health. Trauma definitely impacts your health. It's like a cancer on the inside eating you alive. And we don't understand how our sicknesses sometimes are contributory to grief, trauma, loss, and all the pain that we don't know how to process in everyday life. And it doesn't have to be death. Loss is anything. You lose your job, you don't have any more money, whatever that thing is. So just all those things. And I started getting training. I was hungry to learn about grief because I was struggling with it. Once I started doing that, I didn't intend to making this my life career, but I felt the call. I felt like, oh, because I was in management. I was in human services. I ran programs for children. And I had climbed really high in my career, but God, once I had a family, God called me away from all of it to reestablish me and to help me heal. So I became a stay-at-home mom. And it was in that process, I began to really try to heal from all of life trauma. And it was in that process that God put me on a new trajectory. And I started to learn about grief. And then I became a certified grief coach. Then I started working with David Kessler, world-renowned grief educator, with his program. He's world-renowned. So I sit under him. He is my mentor. I moderate with him. I do coaching on the side. Then I became a grief movement guide on how to help people process grief stuck in your body, because we try to take care of it emotionally, but there is a physical effect of grief, and we don't know how it affects the body. So I felt it necessary to learn how to do that. And even with my diagnosis with lupus, learning how to process the pain of the diagnosis stuck in my body, I had to learn how to push that grief out. So it just led me on this path up until now, being able to be called by God to write this book. And I didn't plan on that. I've written journals. I was a contributor author to so many things, but this thing was just downloaded from God. And this is God's path for me.
The God download. Well, funny thing about grief in the body is that, and I forgot who said it. Maybe you'll probably know because you've been more at it than I have. The body keeps score. So no matter what you go through, trauma or any kind of form of trauma, if it is that traumatizing, your body will never forget. You may forget. You may even get what do you call that? Amnesia of what the event was, but your body will definitely not know. Will definitely know. That's what a lot of people don't realize. And like you said, it could be as simple as, not simple. It's never simple. If it's called grief, it's not that simple. But it could be divorce. It could be death. It could be abuse. It could be multiple or one of the things. But it's definitely something. And we usually, what do you call that? We hide it, mask it via drinking, drugs, eating, hibernating. I mean, there's 500 ways to mask that, right? But this book is so important because of the process that you take people through, the journaling. Tell us what who exactly is this book for? What makes it different from other books?
This book is for anyone going through grief and loss and needing comfort. It could be someone that's in early grief, and early grief they say can be up to
Say that first piece again.
I'm sorry, I missed what you said.
Okay. Say that first piece
It
again.
could be it. So they say, okay, can you hear me?
Now I can hear you guys.
Can you can hear me? Okay. It could be for anyone who's going through grief and loss. Early, it's especially good for someone in early grief, because the feelings are so raw in early grief. You're on task mode. You really don't know to get how you don't understand how to get your footing. So it's for anyone going through anything that needs guidance, that needs companionship, that needs comfort. The one thing that happens in grief is that you feel really isolated and you feel really alone. And so the book is a great companion to walk alongside you. So the attributes of the book is it's written in first person. It is me as a coach speaking to the griever. So instead of me talking at the griever, I am talking with, and I give them invitations to come on in. Which is something that a lot of times with grief, we think time is going to heal it. We'll get better in time, through time, things will get normalized. But again, to your point, the body keeps score, and what you don't feel, you can't heal. So what you don't walk through, grief is a process. It's a journey. And the thing about grief is a lot of times people ask me, will it ever go away? No. It is your long life companion. It will be with you until you close your eyes. As long you can't grieve something you don't love. So as long as you have that love for that individual or that change you never wanted to happen, you'll grieve that. And so we need to learn how to befriend grief. So that's why it's so important to have a companion. So the book serves as a companion. It serves as your own personal coach sitting next to you. A lot of times I also hear, I'm not going to therapy. I hear that a lot. Some people don't want to go to therapy, which is why there's so many great other avenues that you can go through. You can get a coach. You can, there's grief group support. There is virtual group support. So it's for you to be able to have a guide or companion right in the comfort of your own home. And it's an opportunity for God to speak to your pain. I may not know what that person's grief is like, but I can speak to it because I've been through it. It's never good to compare our losses, because every loss, even if I lost a father and someone else lost a father, just because we lost fathers doesn't mean I'll get their pain, because their relationship was different. So it's me speaking to the person, God speaking directly to the soul. During this time when I wrote the book, God had to be in it. I couldn't write the book unless I was in prayer, unless the atmosphere was right, unless I was in worship. So he can use me to download what he wanted to say to someone with a broken heart. And so there's guided prayers in there. When my dad died, I had a hard time praying because I knew if I went into prayer, I just couldn't sit under the weight of all of the brokenness I was feeling. So I kind of avoided prayer for a little bit. I prayed in going, but I didn't sit long because the silence felt like it would take me over and I would never recover. So it has guided prayers in there. It has journaling prompts. It has journaling space in there for the griever. It has resources. It has grief education. So it's a spirit, soul, and body approach and an invitation that God is giving all of us that healing is still possible, even in the deepest pain. Never minimizing someone's pain and who they lost, but healing. God wants everybody to know the Lord, healing is still available.
That is amazing. Who were the love letters in your book originally written for? Can you hear me?
So originally, yes, I can hear you. Okay. You got me? You can hear me? Okay. When I first sat down to write it, and I just want to send love to the Curitan family, my uncle and his family, for the loss of his son. When I originally sat down and started writing, I wasn't writing the book. I was writing because my cousin was murdered and my family had a broken heart. And I didn't know what to do with the pain I was feeling from that. And so I began to write the book originally started with me writing a love letter to my uncle. Really sorrowful that he ever had to experience that degree of death and pain. And when I started to write the love letter to him without the intention of giving it to him, I was just writing because I didn't know what else to do with what I was feeling. And the Lord said, journal. So I started journaling. And then once I started journaling, the Lord started to put back in my mind all the people that I've heard their stories, my friends who've lost parents, and the helplessness that I felt that I couldn't help them, the helplessness that I felt that I couldn't do anything for my uncle to take away the pain, the helplessness that I felt when I moderate and I listen to parents who've lost little children, adult children, who's lost spouses, whose children are missing, all the different degrees of grief. And in that sense of helplessness that I cannot fix them, I cannot say anything that would help them, but that has to be a divinely orchestrated miracle from God to heal them. But what he was letting me know is that he put so much in me that I could do something. And one of the things was he started to translate my journal into love letters to grievers beyond my uncle. And it started with a broken heart. So from that point, everything that I did, I just started writing. And the Lord started to orchestrate how he wanted it formatted and what the people needed. And so it was a culmination of education, my training, my own broken heart, my story is weaved in there, the education, everything that a griever could need in that particular moment. I tried to pack it all in there and in small doses so that people are not overwhelmed. They get a little bit and then they can step out. Because you can't, that feeling is too heavy sometimes. So that's what started the process of the book.
That is brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. You hit all the areas needed in grief. There's so many levels to that, and usually it's either too much or it's not enough, and you don't know what's what. So it sounds like you were mindful of that when you wrote it, which makes it. I mean, I have so many friends right now just going through grief of a child or a loved one, and that is it's so hard when you have nothing for them, except for a positive word or try to bring light. But sometimes that's not enough for people, So this is amazing to me because it's a journal. It's got Bible verses. It's got, and happen to be the people I'm thinking of happen to be spiritual too. So it's going to be a double greatness for them. I'm just so excited and I can't wait to hear more reviews on it. So who stood by you when you were, during your darkest moment when you were grieving?
My mom.
Okay.
My mom. She was the catalyst. She was the catalyst to where I am today in my spiritual life. Because I remember when my uncle passed away. He was one of my favorite uncles outside of my uncle that I'm mentioning. He was my grand uncle, and he really stepped in when my grandmother died. And he was the one that picked me up from school. He was the one that when I was sick and all kinds of things. And I remember when he passed, that was a definite blow. And my mom and I were on our knees praying, because my grandmother would always say, if you have legs to walk, get on your knees and honor God. So we had a practice of not religious people, but faith-filled. And we got on our knees one time and we were talking about the passing of my uncle. And we both were in disbelief, like, oh my gosh, we can't believe that it's another death. Like we could never get a break. And my mom looked at me and she said, pray. She said, your prayers have power to save someone's life if you should pray. And she said, so I want to encourage you that we can't control the death. We can't control the amount of people that are dying. But God does hear our prayers, and our prayers have power to save a life. So pray. And when she said that to me, I'm like, oh, wait, I have some leverage of control in this thing. Not that I can force God's hand to do anything, because life and death are in his hands, but that my prayers have power, that I can actually pray and perhaps intercede for somebody, and someone can be saved, someone can be healed, something supernatural can happen for someone else. And so when that happened, it was like that changed everything for me, because it actually, one of my giftings in the Lord is intercessory prayer, and it started because of death. I started to learn. So when I'm just driving in the car with my husband, I'm sitting out watching the people go by, but I'm praying. And when I'm thinking about my family, I start to pray over them, and I start to speak life over them. So it started me on my journey of just getting really close to God.
That's amazing.
And she led me there, and without even knowing she was doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Mother.
it was my mom. Yeah. And also
Wow.
other family, like my big sister held me down. Yeah, it was my mom and my big sister. They held me down, and being little, like I didn't know. And my sister said she would be away at college. She'd come home, she'd take me for the weekend. Like, so my mom and my big sister helped her to hold me down.
Wow. And wait, and so and your mom had passed too later? Was that later with your mom?
Oh no, my mom is still alive.
So what
My
was I reading?
grandmother is the
Ah, your grandmother. So who's the picture of the
we
beautiful
call
lady?
her mom,
That's your that.
my
Oh,
grandmother.
okay. So that's how I got. I was like, wait a minute.
That's
So
my
I got
grandmother.
something. Okay, because
Yeah.
I was like, I don't remember you telling me this. I was like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
caught
My
off guard.
grandmother.
Okay, okay. So either way, still, thoughtful prayers for grandma. But when you say grandma, I think I got
Hmm.
confused. So that was just me. But I'm glad to hear mom's with us because I was like, wait a minute. So wait, because I'm
Is
adding
alive
everyone
and
else.
well.
I'm like, whoa. So what can readers expect to experience over the next 30 days of devotional?
Um, encounters with encounters with the Lord.
Mm,
Some illumination and education on the grieving process.
mhm.
It talks about a lot of different things. It
Yes.
talks about the guilt that we feel a lot of times
Hmm.
that we can't name.
Mm,
It puts names to the experiences.
mm,
It talks about our nervous system and how fears override our nervous system and how it puts us in a state of fight or flight.
mm,
Half of the battle sometimes is understanding the process that we're going through.
mhm.
We go through things on a daily basis, but we don't know, oh, that's a thing. That's an actual, like, me feeling guilty for having joy after someone died. That is a
Right.
thing for people.
Right.
So it puts names to different feelings that we have. It talks about the various different grief educators terms. It talks about the different types of grief. So it's
Okay.
has a lot of education.
Okay.
It has a ton of witnessing, being
Mm,
able to validate that you're not crazy where you are, because
yes.
sometimes we can feel like it's just us. And
Yes.
so being able to understand, no, it's not just you.
Mhm.
Most people feel like that. So meeting people where they are. And
Mm,
because grief is so isolating, for that person to walk away with knowing they are held, they are seen, they are heard, that their
mhm,
pain matters. And that more
mm,
importantly, God says they are important. Their loved ones' life and how they died is important. And that
mm,
He sees them and He wants to heal them.
mm.
That's the takeaway. Because
Yes.
outside of me and all the things, I'm not brilliant enough to
Mm,
have written this book in the way that it was written. Only
mm,
God could have taken a vessel and being able to download Himself in it. So, more
mm,
than anything else, they walk away with a touch of the Lord on their
mm.
life, to know
Mm,
that, to feel some sense of comfort. The book is not meant to fix what's broken or to change anything that happened. But if for one moment in time while they're reading, if they can know
mhm,
God loves me, the Lord and
mm.
Jesus Christ loves me, He is
Right.
with me, He will never forsake me, even when we feel forsaken.
Mm.
So it's an opportunity for God to speak to us in a very divine way.
Yes. And
So
and and that's
that is my prayer, and that's
mm,
mhm.
that's the moment when you lose someone, especially someone really close, sibling, a child, a parent. The only thing really that can even give you any kind of comfort is for me is the entity of God and spirit. That's it. That's the only thing that can really provide comfort, because friends can say all day, oh, I'm sorry, I can give you a hug, but it's not until you get this, I can't explain it, but this warmth that everything's going to be all right, even though you don't know it is at the moment, comes over you. I can't explain it in tangible terms, but
Mhm.
it took me
Mhm.
5 years to grieve over my brother. 5 years. That's way too long.
Mhm.
I wish your book was out then, because it was way too long. And not, I mean, it's an ebb and flow. You never know how long it's going to be. So I'm not saying that. I'm saying 5 years. Like, it took me 5 years to climb up out of that hole, and I think a book like yours would have helped. Me knowing what I know now about grief would have helped. I didn't know anything about that then. I just, and then it probably wouldn't apply because it's my brother. So who in my head was like a twin. So maybe that's why. But anyway, what is grief moments
And
in your book? Oh, can you hear me? Go ahead. Go ahead. You were
you
gonna
broke
say
up a
something?
little bit.
Okay. What is grief moments and how does it help when words aren't enough? When words weren't enough, which is kind of what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Can you explain grief moments?
Well, just like I was talking about, like there's moments where you're just so stuck. Like people are feeling like they even don't want to be here sometimes anymore. I've heard people say that they go, I just can't do it. And I'm like, yes, you can. You can do this. You got this. Those moments where you go way down, like way down. And so even a word really
Mhm.
it can't help it. That's what I was saying. Only when God shows up or the entity of the spirit shows up that you really that's the thing that makes you say, okay, 5 more minutes, I'll hang around. Okay, one more day. Okay, one more month. You know what I'm saying? So what is
Mhm.
a grief moment? Um,
Mhm.
like I don't know. How does it help um when words aren't enough? And I guess I answer my own question. It helps when the spirit takes over. So you talking about God and the spirit. Um, Pretty much praying is the only way, really. I think, you know.
So to answer your question, and I just want to jump back for 1 second before
Mhm,
to address what you were saying about your brother. The thing about, like you said, to validate what you're feeling about your brother, siblings sometimes are overlooked when in that process because we feel like, sometimes they look at the parents and they're like, oh, how are they doing? But the closeness of siblings, they're like thicker than thieves. And even if you
yes.
weren't close with your sibling, the fact that they're your sibling, they're like your eternal best friends, even if you're
Yes.
not close. And the thing about grief is that there is no such thing as for you maybe because when you're grieving, 5 years is eternity when you're grieving, and to happily and to actually be in a hole and a place where you just can't move from the intensity of the pain. So a lot of times I would say to people, the closeness does matter, and the relationship does matter, and there is no time. We can't tell ourselves like, oh, I shouldn't feel this level of intensity like 5 years in, because
Right.
sometimes it takes 10 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just feel that the intensity of the grief, we are our own expert. So no
Mhm.
one can ever say to you 5 years is too long, because it's
Yes.
your heart has been shattered to 1,000 pieces. And that's the
Mhm.
part where we have to be compassionate about our grieving process and allow it to take its course. So 5 years was agony. Sometimes it's 10, and that's still early grief.
Mm.
It's still the beginning because it's still the rawness. So to touch on that, to give yourself permission to feel all of that, because
Mm.
it was a relationship that you loved and you lost it. And so
Yeah.
to just validate that for a second. What's really important with when we're grieving is tools. A lot of times
Mhm.
we don't know what we don't know. And because of the misconceptions of grief, we kind of
Mhm.
feel like, again, there should be time limits, that
Mhm.
I'm doing this thing wrong,
Mhm.
or that, time is gonna, take care of it. It'll heal my heart. And even sometimes in faith, we're gonna pray it away.
Yes.
Prayer is
That.
essential. It's our communication with God. That is the
Mhm.
ultimate way we communicate with God. But again, the scripture goes back to faith without works is dead. So there are practical applications that need to be applied to our grieving process. So in the moments of grief, grounding is a really great tool. Being able to bring yourself back to the moment, because sometimes we go to a place where we feel everything. And I would say to anybody, if you're feeling everything, feel everything, because it's not going to go away. We have to learn to, as David Kessler would say, live fully and grieve. So that
Yes.
means being in the supermarket while you're shopping for your groceries, and you and they call it a grief moment. burst. You just bust out crying to allow that for the moment, or to be able to do something and you're feeling like the agony of it, to instead of push it away, which is what I've learned to do. I've learned to dodge that thing like the plague. I would feel a feeling coming on like, oh my gosh, I miss my dad. And I'm like, I don't have time for that. I got to finish what I'm doing. And I would just shove and shove and shove. That's unhealthy. We all have capacity. So no one says that, oh, because you shove, you're wrong. But it does come to a point where we have to embrace what we're feeling, every emotion, and be able to be curious about it and be able to sit with it for a second, because no emotion is wrong. We just have to align it with truth. And so when you're feeling like the missing of your loved one, to be able to really feel that for a second. So there's something called the 30-second shift. And a lot of times for practical grievers, people who are not big feeling people, they don't have time for the feelings. Like, nah, I'm not doing that. So what I would suggest to them is give yourself 30 seconds to feel that emotion. 30 seconds, get it all in your 30 seconds. And then for the next 30 seconds, shift your focus to a memory, something that brings you joy, something that makes you laugh. And if that relationship was a terrible relationship, like say, because sometimes our relationships aren't as holistic as we would like, but that loved one was significant in your life for one reason or another, think about what you're grateful for and be able to pull from that experience. So being able to have the tools, grounding, being mindful of your moment. Sometimes we can go back into the trauma of a moment. So when those things, when our memories begin to pull us back, to be able to settle ourselves where we are in this space and time. Like right now, I'm talking to you. We are on this podcast, and bring myself to the present moment. So being able to have tools, journaling is a great way to also get your feelings out. So there are 1,000 tools and 1,000 resources online where you can find what to do with the pain you're feeling. So to answer your question, resiliency tools are really important in addition to the faith.
Resiliency and faith for getting unstuck, because that's what I call being unstuck. You have to have tools. You can never it can never work if you don't. I find the best not the best healers. How do I say it? When people do reach a healing phase, I usually, if you ask them, they always found some kind of tool, even if it was by accident. I like to take walks in the woods, or sit by the water, or read my Bible, or it could be that simple. Or it could be I went to counseling, I got therapy. Some people have to take medication and then do the therapy and then heal. So there's many ways, but you have to have something in the toolbox. That's a fact. Yeah. And so I consider people like yourself, who literally God told to write the book, are angels sent here to help people like that who are stuck, who don't have anything in a toolbox. They're walking around with the empty, nothing to really, excuse me. I was around someone with perfume and it's not good. So I apologize for the sniffling. You have to have something. And that's just in general. You have to have something to work with in life in order to get unstuck from anything, I think. So when did you first...
Coping tools.
Coping tools, that's it. Thank you. Yes, yeah. Coping tools. So when did you first realize can you hear me? Because I heard feedback. Okay. When did you first realize okay. When did you first realize your grief journey could actually help others?
After I became a coach, because I took the class, I took the training, not thinking I was going to become a coach. And it was in the middle of the training that it's like a light bulb went off. Like, I got it. Like I was searching, okay, what does my next phase of my life and my career look like now that I'm a mom? God pulled me out of the workforce. I was trying to go back and, go back to management and do all the things I was doing. And God said, no, I'm calling you to be a mom in your home and take care of your family. And he was repositioning me for this phase in my life. So I had no idea that I was on this track until I took training to be able to help myself first. And then it was like, oh, and I realized that I love to minister, But the other thing I love to do was talk about grief. I love to talk about grief. It is the elephant in the room, and
Yes.
I love it all the more because we are so grief illiterate in this society. We don't
Yes.
understand the power that we do have in
Yeah.
in educating alone. And
Mhm.
then biblically, God has a lot to say about grief and loss and death to speak life back into us. So, from a biblical perspective, and as far as education is concerned, there's so many things, and then to see so many hurting people,
Yes.
and sometimes in just having a regular conversation, and they're saying, "Oh yeah, I'm going through this," and I was like, "That has a name, right?" And they're
Mm.
like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's called anticipatory grief," and they were like,
Mm.
"Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah," and so people are really like they're excited to understand, like, "Oh, this is what I'm going through." So when I started to talk about it, and I actually started to coach, it was like,
Mhm.
"Oh," and I just felt so undone still.
Mm.
So then that's when I started working with David Kessler and his platform. That thing gave me wings because
I
it,
know.
it was
That's
then
right.
I understood the power that God put inside of me. Yeah, and it was like, oh, I to marry all of my broken heart with my education now.
Mm.
I get to merge all of it together, and I learned to find my voice. So
Mm.
it was me taking the pain and turning it into purpose. And then I
Mm.
understood, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. God has been preparing me
Yeah. It
all
was
this
tough.
time. I'm thinking like, I wanted to go back for, and God was like, no. And so I had to figure out, okay, outside of being a mom and a wife,
Right.
what's next for me? And God was like, no, I've been healing you for this moment. I've
Wow.
set you apart and sat you down so you can
Mm.
heal. And so I can get you ready to be able to lead and guide others on their healing journey. So it was
Mm.
like I had to be the first partaker of everything that I educate on.
Right. Wow. That's amazing. Nothing like a private press testimony to what you've written. So when it's the most powerful. I mean, I've read many books on death and dying. My favorite was you talked about her, Keebler Ross. What's her name? Death. Death. Oh, I cannot remember the name. It's one of the best books on
Mhm.
death I've ever written.
Elizabeth,
But of
Elizabeth
course,
Kubler-Ross. Uh-huh.
thank you, Elizabeth Kubler Ross. That's it. Thank you. Yeah, that was the. I forgot the name of the book now. Give me a minute. I'll think of it. I'll think of it. Give me a minute. But it was good. It was the first time I read anything about death. So a lot of her points really made me look at death way different, way different. So I don't know. When someone says that,
Mhm.
I'm stuck, in my grief, what should they do first? Like what's something that you can give advice for someone that's stuck right now?
Fi Get a community of support. It's
Mm,
really important to find your tribe. A lot of
that's right.
times because of the isolation and grief, find your tribe.
Mm,
Again, David Kessler has a program called Tender Hearts, and I was a participant. So everything that I suggest or anything that I recommend or just share is because I went through it. And
okay.
that platform it's virtual. You come together with other grievers. It is a non-judgmental zone where you get to really feel your feelings and get expert tutelage and advice. He has a ton of grief education videos to accompany that. And then he also has specific losses, which I moderate for. I sometimes do the faith, the
Okay.
new grievers, sometimes death by addiction. So there are, you name it, he has a category for it. And you can find your tribe. If you lost a child, you lost a spouse, the age range, that thing is broken up into so many different beautiful pieces where you
Really?
get to find tribes. And I found a tribe with his tender hearts, which is why I continued on this path. There are other support programs. The Grief Recovery Institute is another one. Grief Share is another program where it's faith based.
Okay.
So therapy, grief group support, compassionate friends. There's so many programs out there. So being able to find the platform that fits your style with education, be
Right.
able to get your tribe yourself a circle of support, people who can help you. Therapy, I will always advocate for therapy because they have
Yes.
the education to help you navigate the emotional terrain, what you're going through, that
Mm,
we can't get any other place. God sends helpers, and therapists are part of them.
mm,
Doctors are a part of them. Coaches are a part of them. If you don't like therapy, there are mental health counselors. So being able to get that medical professional support is really important,
mhm,
because what we don't want to happen is we don't want our grief to become complicated grief or chronic grief, where it
mm,
starts to debilitize you. You can't really move forward in it. So I would say get the support, and then also surround yourself with people who will rally you on. The support is out there. We have to find it. So
mm,
that's the first step.
mm,
To be able and be willing to go through the pain.
mm,
That's a
mm.
never easy thing. You have to be able to
No.
say, okay, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired, and I want to change, and be able to confront the pain. Not easy,
Mhm,
because I had to do that in my life when I had to face, why did I gain all this weight? And there's
mm,
nothing I'm doing at my best efforts. I can't lose it. I had to
mm,
look myself in the mirror and say, okay, and I had to do the work. I had to
mm,
really, really dig within myself and go through the trauma that I've gone through with all the grief and the loss, and go through all the hurts. And it's painful. So, but
mm,
I would encourage anyone to do it, because transformation, purpose, and
mm,
resiliency is on the other side of it. Your best
mm,
version of yourself is on the other side of going through the pain that you feel.
mm. Wow. Wow. Why do you think so many people feel alone in their grief? Even even with support around them.
Because it's an individual walk. Every person is different, and you
Mm,
can't take people on the journey with you, because you have to sit with you when you're by yourself. And all the nice words, and not minimizing people's efforts, we need people to show up when we're grieving. We need people to bring over food. We need the phone calls. We need all of that. But the phone calls do stop, and the food stops coming, and the bills still have to get paid. And the thing is, when you lose someone, it's the depth of pain that you can't even formulate into words. No one
mm,
can help you with that. Only,
mm,
and I've come to learn, and for different people of different faiths, whatever works for them. For me,
mhm,
the only solace was the comfort from the Lord. That was the my only saving grace, because he
mm,
was the only one. And I remember when my grandfather died, I had gone out. I was young. I was 17, 18 years old. He had just abruptly passed. I was looking for him to be there. I called him daddy. My grandmother was called mommy. And we were just really this close knit family. And when he passed so abruptly, I didn't know what to do with myself. And at
right.
that time, I was making a little bit of reckless decisions. And I was a great kid, but like when that happened, I was out to lunch. Like I
Mm,
couldn't even handle it. I remember coming in the house one day, and I remember that it felt like an animal trap on my heart. Those big
mm,
claws that you find in the woods, it just snapped on my heart, and I felt like it was unbearable for my soul. And I
mm,
remember just collapsing. It was late, and I collapsed by the bed, and I couldn't. I think I passed out, because I don't have any recollection of whatever happened at that point. But I woke up in the morning. I was fully dressed in my pajamas underneath the covers, and that feeling that I had, and I felt peace in the room.
mm,
That was my first experience that Jesus he was the Son of God, because I did not know how
mm,
any of that happened. Only he could have. And all I would remember saying is, Lord, help me, help me, help me. I'm 18, just graduated. And I'm
right.
just screaming to God. My parents were asleep. Help me, help me, help me. And all of a sudden, I'm in the bed now. And the
Mm,
peace of God filled my room. He was
and
no
God.
longer Lord that I saw in the church on the wall somewhere. He was no longer what people preached about. He really
Mhm,
came in, and he
mm,
rescued me from I felt like I was going to die that night. And he
mm,
literally took the bear claws off of my heart. I was still in agony, but
mm,
the intensity of the feeling, only he could have done that. And that was my first experience encounter with God. That, oh
mm,
my gosh, I can pray and he will rescue me. That was my experience. So that was the change that I needed, to know that healing. God is listening to the pain that we feel. He's with us in it. He's not far, and that he wants to rescue us from the thing that feels like it's swallowing you alive.
You answered the very question I was going to ask you, is how how do we know, where do you believe God shows up? But that's it's a personal thing, and it could be different for everybody. And anybody who's experienced it, it's quite unique. I mean, I experienced it once. I think I was 15. I think it was 15. If I told it to someone, they would think I'm talking about a sci-fi movie. But I'm like, no, this is what saved me. You asked what saved me. I'm trying to tell you. You can't explain it. It's something that just warms your soul, or calms your soul is the word I'm looking for. And just, I don't know, just all of a sudden you get it, and you just start saying, okay, I'm going to use this for this instead of the way I was using it. It's amazing testimony. God, when God shows up, man, everything changes. That's when you really start finding your peace. You start finding you can actually now get to the real stuff. Before that, you really can't, because you're just not in the space. And it's okay. But when you find that, like, it's so powerful, so powerful.
It's like that moment where Jesus comes when the disciples are in the boat. He sends them out. They're in the boat, and the waves and the winds are like capsizing them. And he sleeps. He gets up, and he's like, "Peace, be still." It was a peace, because there are things that happen in life where it's all consuming. It feels like it will take you straight out. Like there is no more. There is going to be no more me after this. But the Lord can come in the middle of the deepest storm, and he can say, peace, be still. And he did that in my room at 18 years old. And I was, it was like, I went to church all my life, but it was like, I was a believer after that. It was like, my mama told me to pray and to do all the things, but it was like, he understood that I felt like I was drowning. And because it was much different loss. And then my grandfather, who was the closest to my grandmother, he died. Like, oh my gosh, how does your heart hold space for that much death? Even if it's just one person, how does your heart can't handle, your soul can't handle that. So, but when he says peace, he's the only one that can, for me, and everybody respecting everybody else's faith, giving space to that. But for me, when he said peace, it was peace.
I totally get that. Wow. Why is it important to give grief a sacred space instead of rushing the healing?
So we can do it in a healthy way. If, like every emotion, it needs space and time. Because a lot of times we'll just brush off. If you're angry at something, you're like, worry about that. Something of faith. It's like we're curious about our emotions, because our emotions are indicators that something is wrong or something needs attention. And so if you're feeling the sadness, okay, so one of my favorite movies is Inside Out. Have you ever seen Inside Out? It's a children's movie.
No, I have to see it to see if it's, but I think it is.
So it's a phenomenon. They have part 1 and part 2. And I use that a lot of times. I'll use in my coaching, and I'll use in my workshops. I will use Inside Out as a great example, because it's about a little girl who moved from a city with her parents to a whole nother city. And she had a lot of secondary losses, but it was coming out in anger. It was coming out in bursting. It was coming out in a lot of ways that she was pushing her parents away. And the moral of the story was sadness needed its space. And so there's a whole internal world going on in the little girl's head, and all the emotions have different characters, and they all have different feelings. And so it's like the cartoon version of what really goes on inside your head, like that no one can see. Like when you're spazzing out, when you're having anxiety, like the cartoons are going crazy on the inside. So I love that because it really displays what we go through as people and what our emotions are going through. Like, when your thought bubble comes on when someone's saying something to you, and you're like, your thought bubble is on fleek. Like, oh my gosh, are they really saying that to me? And you got that thought bubble like talking while you're trying to pay attention.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's like signaling, like, you're sad, I'm sad, I'm sad, I'm sad. And if we do like, don't be sad, don't be sad, don't be sad. You shouldn't be sad. They're in heaven, you know, like they're in a better place, like they're not suffering anymore. That's all well and fine. But that sadness needs space. It needs to be seen. It needs to be processed. And so when we keep doing that, we're hurting our souls and we're hurting our bodies because our nervous system can't take all of that. We're in a state of fight or flight, like we're like this in our nervous system. And so, and that raises cortisol levels, that contributes to sickness and inflammation in the body. And so that's a big reason why we need to process and have coping tools, because we can't keep shoving and shoving and shoving. Our body doesn't know what to do with all that. Our soul doesn't know what to do with all of that. So we need to be able to, and it's not like, oh, you have to feel your grief. It's an invitation. If the sadness comes, let it come. Be curious about it. Stop fighting the feelings, because it's gonna keep coming back up. It's our signaling telling us, hey, if anger's there, hey, you're angry because you're hurting, but I need attention. Dick, poking you. I need attention. And so it lets us know all these different things, because our emotions and our body and our souls are telling us, hey, I need help. And so we have to partner with our own selves, and we have to partner with the grief, because the grief is its own person. It needs space, it needs time, it needs permission from us to heal. So we have to give ourselves permissions to grieve too.
Wow. Whew, that's a lot. I'm amazed at a lot of the stuff you're saying, because like some of it I know from counseling. To hear it in reference to grief and death is so powerful. And I'm glad some people that I really want to get it will be getting it. So thank you again. That's everything you've been saying is like, oh wow, a wow moment, I call it. How can someone, excuse me, how can someone use the this devotional if they feel too numb or overwhelmed to start?
They can see, I'm a type of person, I pick up books and then sometimes I have to put them down depending on what I'm working on. You go at your own pace, at your own time.
Okay.
So you can't rush things. So you get the book and it hits, put it down for a second, but then pick it back up. Before you even, so the foreword in the book says, make a commitment to yourself that you're going to go down this street. It's about making a commitment to your own healing. If it's too much at that moment, like a puddle, like you jump in, and then you get to pick it back up again. As long as you commit to your own self that I'm going to go through this journey of healing, even if it's a bite size at a time, because no one can rush you through that process.
No, absolutely not. We never know how long it will take, actually. How does movement and breathing work, breath work, allow grief to leave your body?
Acknowledging that's it. So when we lose breath, that puts us in fight or flight. You know, we lose oxygen in our minds and our bodies. Like we're in just overly consumed with stress. Your cortisol levels, when you breathe, you are sending a signal to your brain that it's okay.
Right.
So the breathing allows us to slow the pace down, to slow the body down, to slow the heart rate down, to slow everything down, and to be able to collect ourselves and to get this dysregulation that we're feeling to get regulated again, for things to go back in divine order. And so the breathing is really important because it helps us to it gives us the oxygen we need to our organs and replenishes everything. And to be able to, sometimes a lot of times stress can get caught up in our chest, and we feel stress in our bodies. A lot of times in grief, we'll say, where do you feel the grief in your body? For me, I felt it in my rib. I felt it right under my heart and where my ribs are. I felt like somebody stabs me. That's why I feel grief. And a lot of times when we get in pain, like some people get migraines, or sometimes our chest is tight, sometimes our neck. To be able to point out where you're experiencing these things in your body and to breathe through it. There are exercises that you can do to acknowledge what you're feeling in that moment. And so we use the words to communicate that. We use the breath to breathe that out and to breathe oxygen back in. And then we also able to identify what we're feeling at that moment. So it's creating the space and time to actually process how our body is responding to the pain.
Wow. Well, I'm so happy that you've been with us today. I have one last question for you. I know I've kept you for so long. How do you want your book to transform someone's relationship with pain, faith, and healing?
To be able to get courage, to be able to pray for boldness, because anytime we're going to go down that dark path, it takes courage. It took me a lot of time before I was able to confront some of my own past, and I prayed for courage. So pray for courage. If you're going to go down any path, that you will have the staying power to endure it, because only the strong survive. So it's like you have to keep going, and it's like by any means necessary. When you just come to a place like, if it kills me, I'm going to go down this street.
Right.
So you have to have the mindset that I am going to go through this thing. I may sit down for a second, I may fall down for a second, but I'm going to make my mind up that I'm going to keep going. So I would pray that the person taking away this book would have courage to be able to sit with their pain and allow it to transform them.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Ke'Shawn, for today. I'm trying to look over here and see, you can say hi to everybody on the side there. You have a good following there. Thank you guys for tuning in today. We appreciate you. Yeah, so many good comments. Somebody said, I can't wait to receive my copy. Billy. Thank you, Billy. We appreciate you. Tony. Yeah, so I'm trying to see if there's any questions here. Yes, when I lost a nephew, I grieved for years. It was very hard for me to get over the passing. Yeah, that's a nephew. Lean into it. Yeah, I'm trying to see. Okay, I see Billy, Sophia. Thank you very much. You guys have been so awesome. Ke'Shawn, any last words before we go? Yeah, any last piece of advice you want to give? Guys, you can scan that code up there. I believe you can scan it like that, right? I think so. Wouldn't you be able to scan it? I should try it while I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I just want to say to everyone, I'm sorry for your loss.
But yeah,
because everyone, let's see.
Yeah, it does. I just tried it. So you guys can scan that little barcode up there, and that's how you can find the book. Okay, I'm sure it's on Amazon too, right? Yeah, you can do it. You got it, guys.
And so I just want to be able to say thank you for allowing me to come on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. We really appreciate you. You have no idea. You've always been a community giver, a giver of light. So anything I can do to support, you got me, hands down. And guys out there, please try to buy the book. Hey, there you go, at your own pace. Yes, Miss Yvonne, how are you doing? Hey, Sheila. Hi. I see you all out there. I appreciate you so much for taking the time. Trust me when I tell you, I'm sure if Ke'Shawn wrote it, it's gold. So go out and get the book. Because we have to support people that are trying their best to do what God, or you don't believe in God, the universe told them to do in helping us. So get the book. There it is right there. And you can scan the code. We got the code scanned. You can scan it if you want to, whatever you need. It's in there. So you can always go back. But please get the book and support because it's not easy sharing all of ourselves with people. And the tools that we learn, we do it so that we can pay it forward. So try to do that if you can. I know it's not always easy, but just do it. And the holidays are coming up. Be a great gift to someone. And we all are losing or have lost someone at this point. So remember, as Ke'Shawn said, you are not alone. So if you're grieving, you're stuck in pain, or you're searching for peace after loss, please get the book. And until next week, I will see you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic week. Who's this, Billy? That's for you. There you go. You said that. Billy said he's so very proud of you. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. Yes, we are all proud. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes. So
Tanya,
hang out
thank
with
you.
me.
Your show is wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Only
And
because
thank
people
you,
like
everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And hang out for me 1 minute while I say goodbye. All right, guys, while we leave. All right, guys, until next week, we'll see you then. And yeah, stay informed. That's another thing. You guys sometimes stop doing all the other stuff with social media and start really trying to see, what can I do? What is my part in this? And one is buy the book. All right. So until next week, I'll see you. Bye. Hang with me.